Though Russell Westbrook became the fourth player since the merger to score at least 40 points in 3 straight games, but didn't get a triple-double. Westbrook finished with 45 points, while the other 4 starters on the Thunder combined for 12. Max, should Russ ever forgive Kevin Durant for leaving Westbrook?
The answer is yes, he should, but it's on KD to make that happen. It's not that Russell Westbrook should simply turn the other cheek. But if KD comes to him hat in hand, because KD was in the wrong, not for leaving, even if he thought that Russell Westbrook, it's too much, who's the alpha, who's going to take the last shot, I don't want to deal with all that. Even if it was an indictment on some level on KD's thoughts about how good Russell Westbrook could be in terms of eventually winning a championship, that's not what it's about. It's the way KD left. It's the fact that Russell Westbrook had to find out from someone else. It's the fact that in the aftermath of that, KD continued to make comments, whether or not he understood the implications of what he was saying and how it would be used in the media, etc., continued to make comments that made Russell Westbrook answer comments forever. KD's behavior in terms of the way he left, the onus is on him. He needs to go to Russell Westbrook and try to make it right. That said, I believe if KD does that, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow or next year, but at some point in their lives, if KD does that and makes an honest attempt to apologize and he really believes it and make it right with Russell Westbrook, then in my opinion, Russell Westbrook should forgive him.
Well, listen, you don't want to harbor animosity towards anybody forever. That much is true. But I think that we have to take into account that Russell Westbrook is completely justified if he never really speaks to the guy again. And it's not just because of Kevin Durant leaving the way that he did, but it's the conditions under which he left Russell Westbrook to inherit. Russell Westbrook virtually has very little to no help. He's out there night in and night out like a one-man show. I watched him last night. He looked completely exhausted come that fourth quarter. I mean, it's just the only thing that could stop him is fatigue. He's only one human being. When you combine that with the fact that from a mental and emotional standpoint, he's had to carry the load of explaining to some degree why Kevin Durant left and, fending off accusations that he left because of you. He left because he could never win with you. You've got folks throughout the NBA contemplating whether or not Russell Westbrook is this selfish guy that you can't play with because he wants to shoot first and he wants to be the alpha dog and all of this other stuff. It was Russell Westbrook who was left to answer those questions, all because of how Kevin Durant handled his own departure from Oklahoma City. So in that regard, again, I'm not talking about harboring, hatred and animus to the point where you're volatile or anything like that. What I mean in terms of the word forgiveness, Molly, when we ask the question in that regard is, what else is there to say? We might say hi and bye, but what else is there to say? Because it's one thing for you to leave because you believe that there's a better situation that exists and you can't necessarily win with me. But the fashion in which you left, where you couldn't even call me, you couldn't come to my face, you couldn't just be open about what you wanted to do and massage the situation as to make life for your supposed little brother considerably easier. You basically threw me to the wolves. As Kenny Smith came on our show during All-Star Weekend and said, it was straight disrespect. And so when you look at it from that perspective, just think about what Russell Westbrook, we constantly look at individuals from a physical standpoint, running up and down the court, having to go 1-on-5, having to carry the load where he's scoring 31 points a game in 34.8 minutes a night. Which is in and of itself great.
Insane.
But what we're not taking into account is the drain of mental warfare. The fact that I gotta get up every day and I gotta be on my game mentally and emotionally. That stuff weighs just as much as the physical. And we can't diminish the load that Russell Westbrook has had to carry if he is to win league MVP, shooting 42% from the field. It ain't just because of the triple doubles. It's the duress under which he had to accumulate the triple doubles. That's because of Kevin Durant, not Russell Westbrook.
In another way, we would have never known fully how great Russell Westbrook is unless first Kevin Durant gets hurt, because we saw Russell Westbrook emerge in his with his, the full ability on display, because it was all about him. And now this season without Kevin Durant, he's continuing, even adding to that, averaging a triple-double. It's just insane. It's insane. So in that way, maybe he should be, on some level, grateful the way things turned out, in the sense that people can see fully how great a player Westbrook is. But my point about him forgiving KD, Stephen A., is if KD is truly contrite and expresses that to him, and is that otherwise he carries that around with him. And Russell Westbrook is twice victimized because he has to carry that hatred toward KD around with him. Better off for himself to forgive him, even if he never cares about him quite the same way.
On that note, let's stay with the Warriors and their future. So they lost back-to-back regular season games, and this was the first time in the past 2 seasons because Steph Curry has gone cold, shooting 4 of 31 in his last 3 games. The cold shooting has some calling the Warriors the drought. Y'all are just mean. And the Spurs are now only 3 games back in the West. So we asked you guys earlier in the show, will the Spurs catch the Drought Brothers for the top, I can't believe I'm saying this, for the top seed in the West? And 54% say they will, that San Antonio will catch them. Stephen A., you on board with that?
No, not yet. I mean, I look at the Warriors' schedule, and it's a few subpar teams on there. So I'm of the mindset that, yes, San Antonio could potentially catch them, but I'm not going to give them that edge. I'm going to still hold on to the Warriors getting the #1 seed because they still have the best shooting backcourt in NBA history as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about their recent 3-game slump. These brothers are the best shooters I've ever seen. And most nights, more often than not, I think they're going to make things happen. And I think they've got a good team with a nucleus in place to win regular season games. Not to mention the fact that, again, Steve Kerr has proven to be a hell of a coach. And I think that he's done a hell of a job, and I think that he has the pulse of this team. And they don't only play for just themselves. I think they play for him, too. And so I think that they'll find a way to hold on. I think things could get potentially interesting. But they got a few subpar, the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers on their schedule. I think they could end up winning enough games to hold on to that #1 seed, Max.
Yeah, look, without Kevin Durant, maybe the Spurs are better than the Warriors. We'll see. Although, other than Kawhi Leonard, their entire nucleus, their starters, though Powell's just been moved to the bench, are older. And now it's a long season, and that can affect the Spurs also, even though, Popovich is his players, and so keeps them fresher than they otherwise might be. Stephen A. just pointed it out. The Spurs have more home games, but they're against tougher teams the rest of the schedule. I would say overall the Warriors have an easier schedule, and even without Durant, I mean, they didn't have Durant last year. Yes, no Barnes, no Bogut, but they have a great team even without those guys. They're coached up extremely well. They've been playing together for a number of years. They're a well-oiled machine, and they have a 3-game lead on the Spurs. Now, I realize with 21 games for the Warriors left to play, I realized just yesterday, I said, well, they have a 4-game lead. 1 day later, they have a 3-game lead. It's not inconceivable that the Spurs catch them. But I think if you stake a team like Golden State with an easier schedule, with not a ton of games left, a 3-game lead, I like them to win the West.
Well, look, I'm looking at this right now. First of all, they got 2 days rest, and then they go against the Knicks. Well, we know what's going to happen this coming Sunday. Let's throw that out the way. Then I'm looking at games on the schedule. You got the Timberwolves. You got the 76ers. You got the Magic. Milwaukee. They're at home, though. You're at home playing against Milwaukee, even though they gave you some noise last year. You got, I'm just looking Sacramento. Minnesota again, Phoenix, New Orleans with DeMarcus Cousins on the court. They can't seem to win. They win when he's not there. So I'm just looking at it from the standpoint that the Spurs probably have a slightly tougher schedule, and I just say that the Warriors should hold on.
All right, you guys do, but the First Take fam has their film the Spurs right now. Coming up, the NFL has a serious problem that needs to be fixed sooner than later. We'll explain that coming up in the Final Take.
I am Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, and people of Jamaica love and watch First Take.
Load up on the latest styles right now.
Paid, getting in a better situation to take care of his family. But in the end, he is, at 27 years old, he's been banged up the last couple of years. He's a guy that doesn't create separation. I mean, he makes good plays as far as going up and getting the ball, but he doesn't create at the line of scrimmage as far as separation. So you're going to have a quarterback that can throw in spots to him. There's a lot more work and more upside when you have to deal with Alshon Jeffrey. And to
I
me,
agree.
he's never proven to be a number one guy. I mean, you know what you have in Brandon Marshall.
Although when
you have a number one guy, but I don't know if Alshon has been that guy who can carry his team as a number one receiver.
When they were together, sometimes it was hard to tell who was better. And by the way,
true.
Brandon Marshall, you mentioned.
Because Brandon Marshall was getting doubled. I mean, of course you're going to go.
That's right. Brandon Marshall was clearly better.
Poor Brandon Marshall, the best quarterback he ever played with was Jay Cutler, Stephen A. Look, if you're talking about the who would you put them both on a scale, who weighs more in terms of value? Yes, I agree, Brandon Marshall, but there's more to it than that. If a team like New England got Brandon Marshall on the right kind of deal, that's one thing. But assuming there will be bidding for them, assuming we're talking about sizable contracts here over years and the attendant kind of cap issue that comes with that, I believe that Alshon Jeffrey's not only the better deal, but over the next 5 years has a very good chance to be the better player. And at the end of that 5-year period, again, he'll be Brandon Marshall's age now.
Whatever receiver you're thinking about getting, it ain't for the next 5 years. It's for the next 2 to 3 years max. That's number one. And number two, let me tell you something, Max, right now. You could say Jay Cutler was the best quarterback Brandon Marshall ever played with, but not this past season. The season before last, Ryan Fitzpatrick was better than Jay Cutler has ever been, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think
2 years
so.
ago.
I mean,
2 years ago.
They're comparable.
2 years ago, yes.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, Fitzpatrick was okay. He was like league average, maybe.
And that's a hell of a lot. You're not getting my point. That's a hell of a lot better than Jay Cutler's ever been. That's my point.
Jay Cutler had a couple seasons at least that good. At least that good.
Stephen A., I want to spin it forward. I know these guys want to go to contenders, but we have teams like the Bucks, Rams, Titans, Niners. They're all in need of a receiver. What do you think would be good potential fits for a Brandon Marshall or an Alshon Jeffrey?
I like an Alshon Jeffrey in Tampa because there are no title expectations. You know, with Evans in the crew, with Jameis Winston throwing the football, having an additional weapon at wideout, somebody that has the long term, that you got a long-term view with. I like that possibility for him. With Brandon Marshall, I'm thinking Pittsburgh. I'm thinking New England. I'm thinking spots like that, to be quite honest with you. Even Oakland, if he could find his way there. I like a Brandon Marshall in a situation like that.
Yeah, I can see Brandon Marshall, again, a veteran team that's on the cusp, the New England Patriots type of team. Hey, listen, even here we go with the Cowboys, but even a number 2 position with the Cowboys, I mean, you can find some spots for Brandon Marshall, but he's not going to go to a team that's in a rebuilding process. The kid wants to win a Super Bowl. He hasn't even won a playoff game. So he's trying to, don't start. But anyways, he's trying to get something.
And he's trying to get
Darren Woodson,
yourself up. Teed it up.
Darren Woodson just sat up there and said he's never had a playoff win. He's never won a playoff game, but he needs to go to the Cowboys.
I teed that one up. I teed that one up for you.
That's funny.
But when you look at Brandon Marshall, this is a guy that he hasn't won a playoff game. He's trying to get to the ultimate.
Then he don't need to go to Dallas.
But
he don't need to go to Dallas.
I'm not even saying just Dallas. I'm saying there's teams that are out there that deserve that number 2 guy that he can be that guy. But again, Alshon Jeffries is going to be about the money. I see a team like the Tennessee Titans are a team that run the ball and they need a deep threat at the end. I think
good offensive
Rams,
line.
Niners, there's a lot of them.
I will say this. Let me be very, very clear. I'm good with my man Brandon Marshall. That's my brother. Just spoke to him a few minutes ago. If he goes to the Dallas Cowboys, I'll never speak to him again. I'll never speak to him again. I will never speak to him again.
He has that ring on his finger. You'll be speaking to him.
Ring. What? A wedding ring? He's married already. He don't need him. You damn sure ain't talking about no championship ring. You can stop that nonsense.
I need to bring my championship rings in here.
Bring it from the 90s. Bring it from the 90s. I don't have no problem with the 90s. Bring it from the 90s.
How many decades do we have to go back?
There we go.
You guys are all haters.
My hairline was here, Darren. My hairline was here.
How many rings do we all have together? 3.
Yeah. 3.
On that note, Darren, thank you so much for being with us. Always fun. Appreciate the insight.
Get out of here, you cowboy.
So disrespectful.
Get out of here.
The Warriors did something last night they haven't done since 2015. Find out what that is. Coming up next, and Le'Veon Bell is maybe the best running back in the